Okay, so welcome to Live at Lunch. We're here on Thursday, the 16th of November. The year is flying by. And I'm going to be talking about a topic which was presented to me actually via a TED Talk. And I highly recommend that you watch a TED Talk. There's lots on YouTube by Amy Cuddy. So if you do a Google on Amy Cuddy, you'll get a real insight. So the best one, I think, is a TED Talk. And I'm sharing that on my, I've done a blog post only today and launched it all about this. So it's about engaging your power pose. So let me get up my screen and I'm going to share my screen and get to the right spot to where we are. I've got lots on my screen here. Okay, so let's go with present. And by all means, you can ask questions while you're here. That's no problem at all. Right, so what we're looking at is presence and bringing your bold self. Oh, I've got a typo there. So Amy Cuddy talks about an actual power pose and how our body can actually influence our mind. And I really found this, I've been struggling with this for some time, seeing particularly lots of young kids, people I've been connected with being quite anxious. And it seems to me that there's been a growth in that anxiety of being stressed. And I've really been struggling as to pick why. Is it, to do with the demands from school or at university or wherever their work is, getting work, concerns about always having to need things or we get bombarded by the media and always having lots of things and we can't always get those things because it's expensive. But something sort of struck a chord with me that I'm going to share with what Amy Cuddy's been sharing. Now, Amy Cuddy's a Harvard professor and a social psychologist, and she actually had, and in her TED Talk, she shares how she actually was at university at the time and she had a major accident. So she was on a big trip with two girlfriends and they were actually promoting and supporting students in another university. And they had a huge trip where they're in a car overnight. So a big day and overnight, and they were trying to take turns. They thought they were being really sensible. They took turns driving and they'd have one shift. There were three of them and one would have a shift laying on the back seat without a seatbelt. Well, at 4 a.m, because they were driving an all-nighter, when Amy was in the back, she got thrown out of the vehicle and sustained really bad brain damage. Now, her IQ had always been really high and here she was, her brain had been, shaken and really, quite badly damaged. Her IQ was lower and so getting herself back to where she normally was really quite, stressful. Amazingly, she's come back to be quite an amazing woman. If you watch a TED Talk, you wouldn't know anything had happened to her. She's really incredible. But she had this whole period of big loss of confidence. In her book, and it's quite involved, there's lots of different examples and stories and actual study results of research on how the body impacts your mind. And so there's lots of examples. So what she came up with and what her research showed is that you can strike what's called a power pose, and the power pose actually affects your body hormonally. So it increases your testosterone, and you can see there an image I've got of Wonder Woman. And she, so it could be Superman. She's chosen the Wonder Woman pose, but it's all about, and I'm going to do it, so I'm not sure what you see on the screen of me, but hands on the hips, shoulders back, and, if anyone watching you can do it, you can stand up and give it a shot. So if you do that for about 2 minutes, that increases your testosterone and reduces the anxiety hormone cortisol. Now, this isn't the only pose. You can actually put your arms up in the air like you're winning a race, which was like the front cover of the book that she has. And to be honest, I go for walks and stretch my arms out, or go for a jog, and sometimes, and I'm in the bush, so I can put my arms up, and immediately I can't help but smile. It makes you laugh because you just, you feel really positive. So that's a really important strategy. And some families have called it Star It Up. And so they've had, and they go, come on, star it up. And the whole family, mum, dad, and the kids all put their hands up in the air. And it actually gives you a hit, a boost. So the challenging thing that we have, and so look, there's not only those power poses, but there's also sitting in your arm in your chair. So you could do it now while you're watching. Clasp your hands behind your head, and it's having your elbows out and back. It actually feels really good for the back. And that opens up the chest, and somehow that changes your hormonal levels. So it's actually impacting on your body. So that's another way that you can do it. Now, these power poses can be done anywhere. They don't have to be done in front of anyone. And the idea is, if you do that, if you engage in the power pose, increase your testosterone. And yes, females too, we all have testosterone, whether you're male or female, and lowers your cortisol, that anxiety one. You can do it before you're going into an exam, before you step into a job interview, and just where there's a stressful situation where you want to be your, as she says, your boldest self. If you want to really, make a difference. So if you're doing a presentation, you could be choosing this pose before you go in. It's not about, you still have to do the preparation for your exam or for your job interview or for your presentation that you're going to give. You need that preparation. But if you get concerned and stressed about it, you end up, and often you hunch in, and that actually does the opposite. So if you hunch down and you're little, and you're really, almost in fetal position, you're actually doing the opposite. You're reducing your testosterone and you're increasing your cortisol and anxiety. So that hunched up, curled up, wherever if you haven't even got out of bed, that's producing all the powerless poses. And she does talk quite a bit about how that influences other people. If you're in a job interview, if you're hunched over and you've got your hands, you're sort of covering yourself up. And it tends to be, she's discovered, in university at lectures, that women tend to do that more, tend to cover themselves up. I know for me growing up, I tend to hunch because I had a fairly big chest. So I tend to hunch over and hide. So that's doing the opposite. So we need to be out and up in terms of your confidence in your body. It influences how you think about yourself, which is the most important thing, but also about others. Now, there's some fantastic stuff out there. People have used all sorts of resources from Amy Cuddy's work. And so here's an infographic that was made on Pinterest. So I've got the link there, and I will share that link. I've got I've got a blog on my page, and I'll show you where that is, and I'll put some resources there. Plus, this is being recorded, so you've got the chance to see that. So this person's, the website they've got for this infographic I got it from Pinterest, but it's www.ingredientsofoutliers, I think that's how you'd say it, outliers.com. So there's a Wonder Woman pose, there's a tall and proud, or I've been calling it Star It Up, from something that I'd read from Amy Cuddy's book. But the lower power ones are your protective arms or legs crossed too, is like being guarded, and then making yourself smaller. So you might know of people that you see doing that. So what we want to try and do is encourage them to do the opposite. And if you actually stand, sitting tall, standing tall, and doing it just for 2 minutes. You don't have to have anyone see you. You can do it in the toilet or before you leave your house. It can make the difference for the day. I recently had my daughter had been, sharing it with her, and, mums can't quite get the message across to their daughters sometimes. And I had been telling her about it. She had seen the video, the TED Talk, and really liked it. But she'd come really stressed from school. She was going for a job interview. The bus was running late. She had to get dropped off and in town, and she was rushing to my office to get changed or to get ready and go to this job interview. So she had a really small time frame. So her anxiety levels were up. And so what I did, I said, do the PowerPoint post. She goes, Mum, I'm too busy. So we ended up, I just grabbed her hands and held them up, and we both held our arms up together, and we had a great giggle, which released her tension. I just did it for a little while, and she went off to the job interview and she blitzed it. She got the job. Now, I'm not saying that that made the difference, but it certainly helped her to release, the stress and the anxiety for that. And she also just, doing a HSC did the power poses in the morning beforehand. I don't think she did it every time, but certainly when I got the chance to remind her that she did that. And she did tell me afterwards that in a maths exam, she had one question that got her really anxious because she couldn't quite work out what she should do. And she said, well, I was just sat in my chair, Mum, and she said, I put my arms out and did it like a stretch, which wasn't interfering with anyone else. And then, that sort of calmed her down, and she got back into giving the question a shot. So it's amazing. This is just the simplest little thing. The book really tells you a lot more and goes into detail if you want to have some really good evidence of what it does and how it works, and lots of the research. So I encourage you to do that. But the TED Talk is 20 minutes, and I'd encourage you to do that. So here are my takeaways or things that I would recommend. One is that you watch the Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. You can go on to more if you YouTube, you'll see a whole lot. But if you Google Amy Cuddy TED Talk, you'll find it. But I'm going to also put it in my blog. But that's a nice, easy way to do it. And you can see in the picture, this is just a screenshot of the video, there's a runner, and he's got his arms up in the air and he's winning a race. Now, that pose, she's discovered that even blind people do when they've won something. They haven't even seen other people do it. So this is a natural phenomenon of, yay, I've won, yoo-hoo, with their arms up in the air. It puts you in that pose, releases the testosterone, you release your anxiety. I suppose it's like, you're running away from a lion and you made it. Back to prehistoric times. So choose and practice a power pose for 2 minutes is all. I don't know how they know exactly that, but that's all you need to make the difference at 2 minutes. So if you can put it on a timer and or just do approximately that time. So we could even be doing it here while we're in sitting in the chair. You can have your arms up and your shoulders back. And, it's really been a thing that people have said for years, sit up straight in your chair and shoulders back. So it's an old thing, but we've got some scientific proof of how it works and why it works. Engage your family and spread the word. Family and friends, why not? Have a bit of fun with it. The Star It Up family I thought sounded fantastic. If you could, if you're with youth, working with youth, you might share with them the TED Talk and encourage them to see it that way. They might watch the video but have a bit of fun with that. You can have games. It can even be subtly that you don't know. It could be all sorts of games. So when you engage in activities that open up your upper body. Now, this was a workshop that I hosted out at Lightning Ridge, and I got big canvases, And so we were painting really broad brush strokes and even spray painting, and we were doing that as an activity, and that opened up our upper body, got everyone really happy. We'd already seen the TED Talk when we were doing this, and so it was about a fun and creativity. The other ways you could do it is just, if you're in the snow, doing angels in the snow, or probably for us it's angels in the dust. So we might be getting some rain today. But, stretching out, just laying and watching the moon, the stars or the clouds going by, and having your arms up and out can be a simple, fun way to open up your body. And like I said before about, having a run and woohoo and winning, putting your arms up. So that's a fun way of doing it. Now, I spoke earlier, and I'm just worried and then the other tip is yoga. Now, yoga is a really great way. It's to open up your upper body. And whenever I've done yoga, and it's been a while, I need to re-engage and find new instructors, because I had a fantastic yoga teachers and they left town and I haven't sorted myself out. But I always felt when I came away from a yoga session, the only way I could describe it was feeling open, and and it was sort of in this chest area that I felt open. So yoga's, it's an age-old practice, and there's quite a few different sorts of yoga out there. But yes, it's about opening the body, relaxing and releasing, and so it helps with all those things. It would be reducing your anxiety, throw in meditation with that, and you've got some really calming ways of doing things. But yoga is really a great way. It was recommended in the book that she's written from the studies that they've done, that yoga's a great resource. Now, I'm just going to slip back because I've realised I've missed getting an image in that I wanted. With the low power pose, so the one that brings you forward and sort of brings your shoulders forward and covering your body. Now, one of the big things about that is mobile phones. So because we're over it and we're pressing, we're hunched over, it's only little, so we're texting, we're doing little things on it. We're bringing our bodies into that low power and more covered up, sort of more stressful, covering up, closed and guarded, protective pose. So this could be why, and I'm not saying it's the answer, but this could be why younger people in particular, but a lot of our community are feeling stressed and anxious, because we're bringing ourselves into that pose. Now, I don't know what we do about it. Maybe you have to buy the big screens that, maybe they'll come in the future with the big screens that you touch and you stretch out and you use them. There's certainly big expensive places are starting to have them. I don't know how you replace the convenience of a mobile phone, but I think it's really to be aware that that pose that you tend to do, and it's just a natural thing because it's lower and middle, that you're into it, so you're busy doing your messages, that that could be what's increasing that level of anxiety. I'm sure there's a number of factors, but that makes me, this information really makes me think, is that part of the problem? So we can't take them away from ourselves. They're too handy, they're too useful, but we could be, if we're aware, we might be able to come up with some other solutions. So, as I said, check out Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. Try and do a 2-minute power pose before you're going into some situation where you need to have, to feel empowered. No one needs to see you. She gives a lovely story of a fellow who went for a drama, for an audition, and he'd been told about the Wonder Woman pose. Funny, it's always the Wonder Woman. No, Superman does it too. But, yeah, he actually he was feeling really stressed. He was looking at the other candidates for this acting position, and this fellow dropped him off. I think it might have even been his dad had told him about it. So he'd gone into the toilet, did the power pose, had a laugh. I'm sure that helps as well. And then came out and he got the role in a big movie part. it's not saying that, you know, that's the answer to everything, but it's certainly, like, he came out of it. Actually, this was the really interesting part of the story. His dad, when he picked him up, said, you know, how did you go? And he said, oh, I just felt so good in the interview. It was great. He said, yeah, but how did you go in with the part? And he said, oh, he'd forgotten about that. He just felt so good about the moment of what he was doing that, you know, so he became, I suppose that's where the title of the book becomes presence. He was present in the moment, not so worried about everything else. Because, yeah, so, yeah, that's an interesting angle. So there's lots of little pieces within that. So spread the word, engage in activities that open up your upper body, and by all means, your creativity too. If you can do that, that's another really powerful thing to help relax and feel positive about yourself, the yoga. Okay, so that's that. I'm hoping you got something from that, and you do need to watch the TED Talk to really get a lot out of it, and I'll put the link in the text chat when I finish for the blog post that I've got. So, okay, just to let you know that we're fast running out of time. Next Thursday on the 23rd, we're going to be doing tea tasting with Katja Ingham. Now, she's based in Dubbo Orange, and she has she's a tea blender. She studied tea blending and has made some amazing blends. And what we're trying is we're going to try tea tasting with her. And there's a special way to taste tea where you breathe it in and do some slurpy noises, which she shared with us at a Live at Lunch. And so on our Live at Lunch on the website, there's a drop down, and I'll show you that in a moment. But if you register, and it does cost, this one is $28, but you get 3 different teas. So we're going to try with Katja at the same time. Now, this isn't live at lunchtime. This is 8 in the morning or 6 in the evening, depending on which one you'd like. We have a herbal tea, a black tea, and a green tea, and she's also posting out a little infuser. So that's, you know, hence the cost of postage and the goodies, and actually having that opportunity to talk with her as she shares what all the flavours are. And you will need, so if you want to register, you're going to have to register pretty well this week, going on our snail mail. So this is only for Australian participants. We can't have any. So we've got green with envy and a rose garden. It's actually got a rose head in it. So anyway, and then a black tea to try. So that'll be awesome. So we'll be talking to Katja about how we've already done a recording, and the recording's brilliant. It's all about how you store tea, what's the difference between tea bags and loose leaf tea, and a whole lot of other really interesting facts about tea. So it's all on the page that I'll share with you in a moment. That's the link there. Okay, so let's have a look. I'm just going to escape from this so I can get out of our presentation. Let me go to, so on vivianevans.com.au, we have under more, because I can't fit, I'm going to have to rearrange this, but I've got Making It Happen blog, and this is where you've got all the power pose, bringing your bolder self. So we've got the video embedded, we've got the images and other pieces, and the takeaways or those main tips. Another thing that's really interesting too, with how your body can change how your mind thinks and change your hormones. If you're really sad, if you put, I've got a pen here, pencil will be better. If you put that between your teeth, you can't help but smile. And it does lighten the day. So that's another one too, for how your body can change the way you think. For the tea tasting, we go under live events. All our sessions are recorded, but only for people who are doing the register for the tea carts. That's under there, and there's a way to register there. So we've got 2 options with the lovely Katja from Tea Carts. So she's blending and making her own, so you can register there. There's the video of our previous recording, and it could be a gift that you register for someone else, and we can send the recording, and this tea sample. So it could be a Christmas thing, but we're hoping we'll have some people joining us live for this fun event. Okay, so let me come back. I'll stop sharing my screen. I'm hoping that that gave you some insight and a bit of fun. And thanks so much for joining me today for Live at Lunch. And I'll be coming up. We hopefully will have Sheridan talking, but we haven't set a date. So watch out for live events for more information each Thursday. So thanks so much for joining me today.